So we have Virtual Bacon here. This is the Incubator Interview number 2. Dennis, aka Virtual Bacon, he is a super knowledgeable person in the crypto space, and he's in the middle of launching his own DAO. It's called Bacon DAO.
Yeah.
We're going to be getting to all of this. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to do a lot of TikTok lives with other TikTokers, and I think this is a great format that you're doing. So looking forward to discussing what you have in plan.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about you. I mean, last week we had on the CEO of Kush Queen, and we were kind of friends a little bit before. So I don't know much about you. So give me the lowdown.
Yeah. So as you know, we're both in crypto. I actually come from a dev background, just like you. So I studied software engineering in school, and my journey in crypto first started when I was still in school. I did a bit of mining of Doge actually when I was in college in 2015, and then in about 2017, I saw the Vitalik's videos of introducing Ethereum and how you can code on blockchain. And right around that time was when I was trying to decide what field of software engineering I want to go into. So it was kind of smart contract and blockchain really clicked because I also like web dev a lot, like interfaces. So you don't need a back end. You just need smart contracts, and then you spin up a front end, and anyone can interact with it. It's there forever. It was very powerful to me, this idea of smart contracts. So after I graduated, I did about 2 years developing both dApps and a little bit of protocol for Ethereum and EOS. We did like this API a GraphQL API that does some indexing and query stuff. But then,
So not to interrupt, but you
course.
were mining Doge in 2015.
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit more about that. And do you still own the Doge?
No, I don't own Doge anymore. I think that it's probably in Cryptsy right now. If you've been around long enough to know that exchange, it's gone bankrupt like way back. So I was mining with one card. I think it was 7890, like an AMD card. Just one card, and the whole reason was I was in college and the dorm didn't charge electricity fees, so it was just kind of I don't know, already had a gaming PC, so just turned on full
Me and
time.
you both on that. I had
Great.
I had a Bitcoin mining rig in the attic of my fraternity, and
Nice.
we didn't have to pay electricity. So
Nice.
the most profitable way for mining is having free electricity.
Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't have too much capital to put down, and I also it was I didn't even know Ethereum. Actually, no, Ethereum wasn't a. It was shortly before Ethereum came out, I think. But mind a bit. There was this thing called like multi-pool where you. It was mostly on Doge because it was the most profitable, but you point your miner to that to their IP, and then they mine whatever is the most profitable based on the exchange rate. Then, and then I have the kind of the payout set to my Cryptsy exchange, but that's all long gone now. I still have some of the emails for the payouts from Multipool, so it's good to look back.
I bet those are both fun. Oh, excuse me, both fun and like, give you a little bit of ajda.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing that I didn't have too much put in. I can probably bring it up right now if I just look up Multipool. Yeah, so this is from like 2014, March 20th. And on the same day, I had every 4 hours there's a payout, and there's like 1K, 1.5K Doge. That's on one card, right? So, yeah, but nobody would have held all the Doge they mined for the past like 7 years.
So you're getting involved. You're in the you start seeing the potential here. You're mining Doge. You're seeing this, and then Vitalik comes out with Ethereum in 2017 and these smart contracts. And then you're immediately basically hooked on the potential of this.
Yes, it was kind of a both. So right around when I was about to graduate, I had a bit of money saved up that just kind of didn't make sense. One day I just thought, I want to invest, but I have no idea what to invest in. I know the stock market is very volatile, but I'm young and I don't have too much to invest. So if I were to take big risk, it's probably now. And
Hmm.
I probably want to do something that I know better than everyone else, and where I have an edge. And I thought of crypto because nobody knows about crypto at that time. Even in the software engineering faculty, nobody knows about it. So I thought I was probably pretty early. Then I started looking up, where to learn about crypto, investing. And then I think I found some actually Twitter accounts very early on. And then a couple months after that, I think it was like end of July ish, in 2017. Yeah, I think it's 2017 where I saw Vitalik's video and I first thought, okay, this guy's either a scammer or
Yeah.
he's either a scammer from Russia or he's very, very intelligent but cannot speak. But it was very
Right.
skeptical, and it was so difficult to grasp, like the idea of coding on a blockchain that's completely centralized, anyone can run. Um, Skeptical, but seeing that Ethereum was already trading, I think it went from like 180 to maybe $300 that month. I thought, okay, this is big enough market cap. It's worth to jump in. So I bought a bit there. Um, yeah, and the rest is 2017 run. Traded a bunch of altcoins, shitcoins,
Right.
done everything. Um, Made a lot, lost a lot, but that's a good lesson.
Yeah, I think I so now yeah, when Vitalik, I'll tell you one thing about Vitalik. He's got the look of the guy who would, create Ethereum. Like if
Yeah,
I'm gonna create a character to be, creating this decentralized entity, I think Vitalik is the perfect, build, look, feel.
yeah. He's
He's
uh
and
he's a
so
he's a
now
character.
so it's 2017, right? And you didn't have any kind of like interest to get into traditional like back end development. So as you mentioned, like I'm currently a full stack engineer, so I kind of know the ins and outs of that. Now
Cool.
it definitely is ballsy to be like I'm going to get into this type of development when it literally came out the same year. Like, what was going on in your mind when that happened?
Well, it was I've had a fair share of interviews with big firms, and just the traditional, like, if you first off, school doesn't teach you enough to code effectively as a career. You need to do your own, and the most sought after skills are full stack web, right?
Right.
Uh, I had that, but then, was I going to slave away at Amazon, and they they pay a lot, but you kind of see like 10 years ahead? No, that wasn't why I got into software. I was in it because of the flexibility of doing remote work, making something that just works, anyone can use,
Hmm.
and being my own boss, kind of seeing it as a very powerful skill. So, and also, the fact that you can code money with Ethereum was very powerful, because that just kind of gives coding superpower. So I didn't think it was that risky, and ballsy, in fact, because there are so many CS grads nowadays, and it's quite difficult to get your foot in the door. So if you are specialized in an industry that's not as saturated, and you can go out there and learn your own way in, then I think it's a bit safer, and that has been my experience, actually. Coming out of school and trying to find a job, just going for the specifically type of roles in a blockchain or dApp kind of role. You don't need to be very proficient in smart contracts or Web3, because this ecosystem is so new, right? If you just
Right.
know a little bit, it puts you ahead of the curve. So yeah, I think it was a good move.
Was there how did you just taught yourself through online resources?
Okay, so for that, I think it was around uh, early 2018. I did this boot camp from Consensus. They had this developer academy thing. You pay like $2,000 or something, and it walks you through the whole process of smart contracts, Web3 JS, front end, the best practices, teaches you how to make a token, how to make a crowd sale, the popular contracts back then.
Hmm.
And then what else did I do? I did some just like security challenges. There's one from Open Zeppelin. There's another one called Ethernaut
Hmm.
that teaches you the design patterns for smart contracts. But the rest is just getting familiar with the Web3 JS library and a lot of full stack web, right? Which I did
Hmm.
through like FreeCodeCamp and all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of those. Um, I don't think it was too difficult a skill to learn, to be honest. It was you needed to be committed and know how to Google. Uh,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
easier said than done.
yeah, a lot of practice. Yeah.
So what was your first role? So you once you taught yourself, how did you really get some like skin in the game and start building?
So there's a firm that one of my friends founded in Toronto, here in Canada. They do fintech kind of MVPs for clients. So this was, I think, beginning of 2018 or end of 2019. Be- no, beginning of 2019, I think. Um, and I had enough full stack experience then to make an app, to make, and I had enough software, well, smart contract experience to at least code up a token and deploy it, and code up a crowd sale and deploy it. And that was enough to get my foot in the door because they had clients that want to build apps, and there was a clear shortage of people that can do it.
Hmm.
So my first role was there at a software consulting sort of startup, and we did the couple projects that I did. One was a wallet that had that was React and React Native, cross-platform, and I did a token for them. I did kind of the integrating the Web3, the tracking your private and public keys in their database, and signing
Hmm.
the transactions, the wallet aspects. Um, then I did uh, like a gamified ICO where it's a prediction game. So every day you predict on the price of Bitcoin going up $5 or less than 5% or something. And if you guess right, you get some of their tokens. So you bet with ETH, and depending on how you guess, you get different amount of their tokens back. But essentially,
Right.
it's like a gamified crowd sale. So I did that. So it's like a front end
And
and
now
smart contracts.
so when you were doing that, is that where
Mm-hmm.
you learned your, your technical analysis?
No, the TA stuff was kind of a bit in early 2018, 2017 and 2018, but a lot of it is more recent. I would say late 2019 when I really started to be very interested in trading and actually have enough experience psychologically to say I'm going to do my own thing and I'm not going to just follow other people's analysis. I think that was
Hmm.
a breaking point of actually technical analysis.
And so you come from this tech background, and clearly, you're very well versed in kind of the technical portion. At what
Right.
point were you like, I want to get into kind of the social media and the, creating content?
Right. So videos was always a big passion of mine. I've been doing all kinds of YouTube channels throughout, I think, since 2013, but none of them was very good. Then, I'm Chinese, and I've seen the rise of TikTok in China, and uh, think in summer 2019. I really saw kind of TikTok blowing up in North America, but the content on there is just memes and dances and music, people dancing to music, which is comes from Musically, but
I
there's
would.
clearly a lot more there because the
You,
truly
you,
powerful thing is the algorithm, right?
you didn't want to get dancing on TikTok?
If I were any good, right, I would. Um, but I also come from it from a long term business perspective, right? When you just do memes and whatever is trending, it's very difficult to turn that into a sustainable business, right? The algorithm doesn't target you as clearly. It doesn't know what your core demographic is, so the traffic fed to you is very random, just entertaining.
Hmm.
And then brands, if you do a brand deal, then the activation is going to be very poor because you dance, all of a sudden you show a product nobody's going to watch. So there's this thing called idea called verticality. I don't know how it translates to English, but it's very popular in China. It's just your content needs to be very focused, right?
Hmm.
Um, that's so it's not only how many views you get, but if you can get high views, consistently making the same type of content, it's super important on TikTok, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, and so that's why I did a bit of funny, trendy meme stuff on another channel on TikTok early in the days, but it just didn't seem worth it because everyone's doing it, and even
Hmm.
if I got 100K followers, then what? It's still just funny memes. It's
Right.
fun, but I can't do it full time.
Hmm.
When am I gonna make T-shirts? Like, come on. So,
Yes.
um,
So you decided
so
to go kind of the more technical route. Now,
yeah, more
um,
technical route. At least focused on my interest, right? This way, I can
mhm,
also do it longer term, even if it doesn't go anywhere. Worst case scenario,
you
people can see that I'm well versed in this. I have an
right.
interest in this industry. It also helps me to find a job, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
So, question
yeah.
on that. So, I mean, I've obviously watched a lot of your videos, and even my dad, before he knew that we were
Oh my
having
gosh.
this interview, my dad's like, "You know that virtual bacon guy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know him. I swear." And I'm like, I actually like his stuff. And I was like, "Me too." But what I was wondering was, so you had picked up technical analysis, right?
Right.
Could you walk us through maybe like a week by week way to learn technical analysis to the level that you know it?
Sure. So, in terms of actually learning like how to look at charts and stuff, it's basics, and you can probably get down in like a month. So, so great book I recommend is uh, what is it called? Technical Now. I actually have it here. It's great. Wait,
You
no,
got
is
it
it this one?
handy. I love it.
No, it's not this one. But it's called Technical Analysis of the Financial Markets by John Murphy. It's a pretty old book from I think the 70s, but it goes through the whole concept of why TA works, which is essentially crowd mentality, right? People look at the same thing, it's they look at the same kind of patterns, and it represents their psychology. Um, but it goes through. You need to know the basics first. What is on the chart, right? The time scale. What does the candle represent, right? The opening price, closing price. What is the current price? And if you're on a daily chart, each candle is 1 day, right? And you can zoom in and out. What are indicators? So what are the actual metrics from a chart, which is the price and the volume. These are two fundamental metrics.
Hmm.
Everything else is derived from that. Um, and then it goes through the indicators, which are all good tools, but you don't need to know all of them, right? You just need um, you need a lot of experience to see what works in which market and in what conditions. So, for example, on Bitcoin, what I like to use is mostly just candles, very less so volume. Volume just kind of shows like if people are actually trading a lot or if it's just large fluctuations because everybody's watching, right? So it's how credible a move is. But just getting back to the point, how to learn TA, there's a really good YouTube series by Crypto Cred that I used. It goes through the pretty much the basics, right? What are candlesticks? What are volume? The basic indicators, going through like 5 videos of 20 minutes each.
Hmm.
And then risk management, right? Which ties into how you plan your trade. So just because you see an indicator and you see something potentially working doesn't mean it's 100% certainty. Every trade has a chance of going right or wrong. Usually it's like 40, 60%. It's not high certainty for most
Right.
trades. So it really boils down to even if a trade is 50% likely to be right, you need to see, okay, if it is right, I gain $500. If it is wrong, I only lose $100. Then
Hmm.
it makes sense to take it. So it's that kind of mentality that it teaches, as well as tracking your trades, so typically what type of trade, right? If you're a swing trader or a day trader or long-term holder, that fits you the most. But yeah, it's a really good series by Crypto Cred. Like 10 hours maximum, I think, total. Um,
So you
but
read
yeah,
you read this book, right? You watch
yeah,
these video series, and now you have
hmm,
this foundation.
yes,
Um, what would your recommendation be for anyone who's like, okay, I feel like I know it. I'm not
right,
ready to start swinging $5,000 on a
right,
potential reverse, Bart Simpson looking chart.
right,
Like,
yeah.
what would you think is the next step?
I wouldn't recommend paper trading because with no money on the line, you don't really get to learn.
Hmm.
You win and lose, but you don't feel the psychology of seeing like your portfolio go down and then it goes up back up again. Like you don't experience it, so you will still panic. So I recommend is go very small, right? But if you have $5,000, put in like $50 or something. But you actually need to have some skin in the game. You take a trade. Worst case scenario, you lose $50, but you feel the psychology of you enter into the trade. Oh, it doesn't go your way, but according to your initial plan, you need to hold, and then if it hits your stop loss, you follow that and you stop loss. And seeing that kind of play out a few times, and you see that sometimes you lose, but more often you win. Once you
Hmm.
feel that I lost this time, but the next two times I won, and then I lose again, I win two more times, then you get the hang of it, and uh, then you can increase your position size and try to um, uh, recall back with your experience and say,
Uh-huh.
okay, this has happened before. It's the same kind of analysis. I need to be patient, and you can gradually increase your risk tolerance there and put in more money.
So one of the yeah one like you mentioned, one of the biggest things that I found is getting skin in the game, and like
Yeah,
something, especially when you see like the Doge price run up, right?
yeah,
People mentally will be like, oh, if I had bought this, I would have this much money. But it's like you probably wouldn't have held that long, or like
yeah.
because you would have been emotionally attached.
Hmm.
Now, is there a way that you almost detach emotionally from the trade, so that you're truly just trading on fundamentals? Like any techniques that you do to that?
Well, first off, I rarely trade on fundamentals. I pretty much only trade on technicals, but I think that's what you mean by
Sorry, yes, yes.
yeah, it's just like looking at what's happening, right? Instead of
Yep.
getting the emotions in my head. But I think it does come from experience, because let's say Doge pumps from, I don't know, I think it did like from 1 cent to 9 cents and then 10 cents to 60 cents, something like that. Two big moves, right?
Hmm.
You look at the pump from 1 cent and you think, and people are saying like $1 back in like last year, right? You see that, and if you're new, you might think, oh wow, it's literally going straight up. It's gonna go to $1 tomorrow. It makes sense to think that, but once you've seen enough pumps, you realize that it always goes up and then it comes down and then it goes up again, comes down. So once you've seen enough of these, you know that there's no exception. right? Whatever goes up does come down, and it'll go up again, and it'll come down again. So then you can ignore what other people are saying and just look at really what's the potential profit there, right? How much risk
Mhm.
you're taking, how much if it drops, and what's the higher target that you could potentially reach on anything, Doge or Bitcoin, or any other asset. Um, uh, there's always going to be emotions, and it's good to recognize the emotions, right? Because it does kind of represent what other people may feel as well. But in the end, it's you're there to make money, right? And if you feel that you see something pump and you think it's going to go 100x tomorrow because other people are saying it, just look back at other assets that have pumped, people have talked about for the past couple months. There's plenty. None of them have pumped 100% in a day, despite what everyone's showing. So that gives you perspective. Um, and then just got to recognize that you're there to make money. At the end of the day, it's not about being on the right, it's just about how much you can make. Even if it pumps to 100x after like big swings, if you get swung out because you panic, then you don't really make money. So um, I think it's experience, looking at what
Mhm.
has gone through it, and um, yeah, you pretty much have to chase enough pumps to know that it doesn't work for you,
Right.
and then you are patient enough of times, and you recognize that, oh, these did work. I made some money here. Then you can ignore what everybody is
Right.
saying, and know
Right.
what you should do.
Until you've
Yeah,
you've gotten in on a pump and then you've seen your money,
evaporate.
evaporate,
Yeah,
then it's like, it's easy to like be like, okay, I would have held through that
yeah,
until, it's you're watching the dollars drop and you're like
yeah,
the truly the emotional part of it.
yeah.
So that's really your technical trading, right? Um, where do you see crypto going in the future for your true long-term investments?
I think uh, I think there's the fundamentals and the technicals. So fundamentals, I think the couple use cases that have proven themselves is Bitcoin as a store of value against inflation, Ethereum for smart contracts, unstoppable apps, right? That you can code money into. Um, Probably also Monero and privacy coins for dark web stuff. There's always going to be interest in that. Uh, NFTs are still too new. They're pretty much just this market cycle, so we still need to see some mainstream adoption in that enough. But the use case is there. The technology clearly works. But seeing these fundamentals, and then you look at specific projects, I need to see the technicals. Specifically, how long has the coins or the projects been around? Um, Both their platform, their team, and the coin's market cap, uh, in order to justify holding it for another long period. For example, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, right, Monero, these coins I'm comfortable holding like 5 years ahead because they've been around. I think Monero has been around for 5 years also. But yeah, they've all been around for as long as that time period,
Mhm.
and they haven't died. They have died before, but they have come back up. So,
Right.
um, but for other projects, you just don't know if the team or the technology behind it can sustain big market drops. So, um, yeah, you need to see long enough
Yeah.
um,
So you
history.
mentioned a couple of narratives there, right? You have
Yeah,
the store of value Bitcoin. You
yeah,
have the Ethereum network. You have this NFT narrative that really picked up steam, in January.
yeah.
Two narratives that I think we haven't necessarily seen, get this kind of mainstream, at least conversation. I think is DeFi and Oracle contracts. What do you
Sure.
think about the two there?
So I think the two are very hand in hand. I tend to disagree that DeFi hasn't seen its day because there are I think the
I think we lost Virtual Bacon for a second here. Is everyone able to hear me? So we're interviewing Virtual Bacon right now. We have lost connection with him.
did I?
However,
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
oh,
it
you're
was
back. You're back. I was just
yeah,
letting
it
them
was
know.
my I got a notification, so it cut off.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so we
But
were
yeah,
talking
so
about DeFi.
DeFi and oracles, right? So I
Yep.
think two really come hand in hand because you need oracles for pretty much all of DeFi to get traditional exchange rates and other data fed into the smart contracts. But DeFi is quite mature. I do think the DeFi ecosystem is technically more mature than NFTs, but adoption-wise, it is not. Because collecting trading cards and such as NFTs is pretty easy to understand, but putting your money into a savings vault that does some stuff on chain, people don't even understand their own savings, right? So
Right.
that has a long way to go in terms of adoption. Um, I think the DeFi coins and platforms, I'm more willing to hold than NFT coins actually because they do have longer history, DeFi and oracles. So if you look at Chainlink, that has
Hmm.
been around since 2018. Um, much of many of the DeFi big names like Aave, MakerDAO, Synthetics hasn't been around as much, but there's a Kyber, right? There's a few that has been around since 2018. So their team and their coin, the tokenomics of it, the money flow in there is enough to sustain a big bear market.
Hmm.
But we don't really have any NFT coins from 2018 that is still around today because most of the NFTs are collectibles back then, like CryptoKitties and
Right.
CryptoPunks. But you can hold CryptoPunks, that's fine, but current prices are very high.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think
So
these industries, I'm probably willing to hold the DeFi coins for maybe 2 years or so, kind of time frame.
mhm.
Definitely not as long as the Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Monero type of coins that have much longer
Mhm.
price history. But I do think they are one of the more mature coin categories.
So with DeFi and you kind of touched on it, right? With oracles, and these are so important
Yeah.
for DeFi to mature. Do you want to just touch on, just for everyone listening, why oracles are so important and like why really what it provides?
Yeah, so uh, let's take an easy example of an on-chain exchange or derivative. That's not really a good example, but let's say you need a synthetics, for example. It can track the price of gold, right? This is through
Mhm.
a smart contract. So you deal with their smart contract, and the smart contract knows the current price of gold, so you can buy a token on the Ethereum network that represents the price of gold. So you don't have to go through your bank and buy a gold index. Instead, you buy this token, and its price will always match the price of gold. How? Through an oracle. Basically, if there is no decentralized oracle, if it's a centralized oracle, then synthetics themselves will go to the bank, ask for the gold index price, and tell their smart contract what that price is. But then you're trusting synthetics to be honest about that and accurate, and they cannot be hacked, right? It's a central point of failure, which is not a good design pattern in dApps, right? It needs to be able to sustain even if synthetics goes bankrupt and the team is MIA. So that's why decentralized oracles are very important. For example, Chainlink. So what Chainlink does is they have these nodes that are run with by all kinds of people, not just synthetics, and these nodes talk to the gold index provider together, right? Let's say 100 of them talk to this one provider and ask for the gold price. Then 100 of them uh, all tell the synthetic smart contract, here's the price of gold. And some of them might lie, but as long as the majority of them is honest, and we can punish the ones that lie, then this system is a lot more decentralized. And even if synthetics goes down, this data feed is still there, and people can trust that as long as the liars are being penalized, the people that are honest are rewarded, then this system functions without a central point of failure. And that's why decentralized oracles are very important. Not all oracles, but yeah. So in order for DeFi apps, decentralized finance to function, it needs to be decentralized across the board, right? So there's always going to be that data part where you need something, where you need to trust someone, but instead of trusting one entity, you can trust many to query the same
Right.
information and make it sufficiently decentralized.
Right. By
Yeah.
having all these different actors in the actual network, you're
Yeah.
able to confirm truth by a percentage of them saying the same
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
It's the same way, like if you ask like when you're polling, the room or something, you expect the right answer to come up more than the wrong answer. And it's a
Yeah.
way, if everyone's incentivized to provide the right answer, um, then you have this decentralized network where you're able to bridge the gap from, the real world to, this network.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, so that's a DeFi use case. Do you have anything where you think it might be the first to adopt oracles um, outside of DeFi?
So the most popular ones are exchange rates, but oracles can query for anything, right? Like election results, weather, um, all kinds of stuff. So you could be used in a online casino or online betting place
That's what
where,
excites me.
yeah, you
Everyone
can.
who's I love gambling. If
Awesome. Okay, I wouldn't encourage everyone to do that, but it's fun. But yeah, it's if there's on-chain gambling where you're placing bets on the score of tonight's game, then you
Mhm.
need to not trust a single entity, but instead have a bunch of people feed in the score, right? Then you can use a oracle there, or the weather or election results, all kinds of any data basically. Yeah, that's
It's
another
exciting.
use
I'm
case. Yeah.
yeah, I think that these Oracle contracts, I really am excited to see how they're implemented. I mean, from a sports betting thing, like the idea of being able to entirely uh, bet on like a Lakers Celtics game when
Hmm.
it's decentralized, just
Yeah.
I think people will enjoy that, and I think people having to pay a network and like I think that is a very exciting use case because people do like gambling.
Hmm. There are plenty of platforms for those already. It's
Hmm.
very interesting ways that they go about it, to determine what's truth. But yeah, definitely
So
a good use
now,
case.
one of the things that um, I'll do a shameless plug for you. Bacon DAO is coming out, right?
Yeah.
And it is for anyone who's worked in tech, building a product is not easy. There's a lot of work to do that.
Right.
So, do you want to give us an overview of what DAOs are, where you think they're going, why it's the future, why it might not be the future? Um,
Yeah.
teach us.
Yeah. So DAOs stand for DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations. It's been a concept since I think 2016, when we had the famous DAO hack. But essentially, a bunch of people hold a token and they can decide on uh, decisions together based on how many tokens they hold. So nowadays, DAOs typically they vote on decisions for certain platforms to adjust for example, their fee rate, what they're using their treasury for, right? If they're doing a marketing plan or how much they put into development, etc. So it's essentially a decentralized company that anyone can own, and you don't need to sign a contract. You just need to buy some tokens. But there are legal gray areas in there. That's why it hasn't been, very well integrated into traditional company shares. But nonetheless,
Mhm.
it's a very cool system because it's completely transparent. You have your company directors, you have all the shares public, and anyone can participate. So that's DAOs, and we're building this project called Bacon DAO, essentially because there's a big community behind kind of the Virtual Bacon brand, and we built up a very big Discord that has been constantly helping new beginners into crypto, whether it's analysis or their wallet help, some altcoins that we're looking at, all kinds of stuff. And a lot of people are volunteering. Myself put a lot of time in that, but there is value to be made there because people are willing to pay for this as long as we're always there. But if we go at it with a subscription model, people are it's very difficult to make that fair for everyone. Like, how expensive do you make it? Is it $10? Is it $500? If you've ever done a subscription business, typically more expensive is the way to go because you get the quality members in that want to always be there for the information, they can afford to pay. And if they can pay $500 a month for a subscription, then you know that they have decent enough capital to invest and they have their risk management down. But at the
Right.
same time, it's not really fair to just leave everyone out and say, this is very exclusive because there's some incentive there to teach the basics to beginners. And that's why this DAO model, we're using it, where we have this token, the Bacon token. It's technically speaking a social token that represents a membership for the Bacon DAO. So you can ask for analysis. We will have a mentorship service that you can pay with Bacon. We'll have an educational curriculum that requires holding Bacon to access. But this way, it's membership, it's not subscription. So you can buy it and you can exit at any time. And your holdings are also tied into the community. So you are not only a learner, but once you are familiar enough, you can also help out in the community and earn some Bacon, right? So this model not only incentivizes the core team, the contributors to make better content and help everyone, but also incentivizes everyone to learn and improve the community. And
Hmm.
that's kind of how it got started. But we just looked at a bunch of projects out there and wanted to see what are the best ways beyond this to offer more value for the token.
Hmm.
And popular in the crypto industry right now is private sales for IDOs, right? Where you can access some private deals beforehand if you hold a certain amount of Bacon. We've seen
Hmm.
like likes of DocDAO, like Paid Network, a bunch of these platforms. They have their members that can get into projects early. They also have typically they have their own token sale platform, and I myself am building that, which is the Bacon NFT Launchpad. I think this is really interesting because we haven't seen an NFT focused launchpad. At least I haven't with our unique use case. Um, yeah, I can. I mean,
So this is
I'm
so
kind
I
of
think
rambling, but yeah,
just rewinding just a little bit. So the goal here is you wanted to create a community, and
yeah,
you didn't. The problem was you wanted to create a community, but you wanted it to be inclusive, and you wanted people to feel like they had skin in the game. So the
yeah,
solution you came up with was this DAO, and it also, because you are in crypto, it was kind of it went with the idea of what Virtual Bacon brand is all about.
right.
Now, so you were juggling between membership and this DAO. Now, I'm sure the work effort here for the DAO versus just creating a Patreon,
Right.
there's it's a significant, hurdle.
Yeah.
How has that been building it from scratch?
So I have had a very early on. I have had a subscription-based model. I've tried Patreon. I've tried my own platform from like a WordPress plugin, and that was pretty difficult. But to be honest, setting up a token gated membership community on Discord is very easy. There's a bot called Collabland. There's another called TipCC. So Collabland allows you to uh, enter in a token contract that is your membership token, and the threshold for membership to hold, and the role you want to grant them, and then you just make that role, limited for whichever private channels you have, and it's like half a day of setup. There's also another bot called TipCC, which can allow tipping between Discord members in crypto, and you can integrate your own token in there. So we have that integrated. That process is not much more difficult than setting up a Patreon. It's quite similar actually.
Hmm.
But uh, yeah, so I think the real difficulty comes from um, access levels, right? Same as
Hmm.
when you set up a Patreon. What are the price levels? How many price levels do you make? Do you adjust them? And I've done this before. And eventually, if you have a paid Patreon, eventually you will run into like burnout where it doesn't make sense to charge like $20 a month because you have way too many members. And even though you say there are private chat channels, as long as there's that conversation with them, they will continuously ask the same repetitive questions. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just the nature of chats, things get lost. And
Yes.
it makes sense people will ask the same thing because that's what's useful, but they don't always see the same post, right? If you have a paid subscription newsletter, it's fine because people expect the same content. But if you have a community, then you usually will run into a case of burnout where all your time is spent answering questions. Uh, that's why this token model is a bit better because you can adjust that tier um, as the as more people join, they buy bacon or they buy whatever token you have.
Hmm.
The prices will increase, right? So the membership naturally becomes more expensive, and it's kind of demand and supply based instead of you just abruptly saying, I have 100 members now, it's taking up too much of my time. Instead of $20, it's going to be 30. People are going to think you're greedy, but in fact, you cannot handle it, and any business usually scale this way, but people don't understand. But when
Right.
you make that membership process that each new member joining will bump the price a bit, then people see, okay, there's demand for this. The membership is becoming more expensive, not because we're artificially inflating it, but just because it's clear demand, right? Then it
Hmm.
makes sense, right? So there you won't necessarily run into the same kind of uh, barrier anymore that you cannot handle and you need to increase price abruptly.
So let's say on
Yeah,
this, so this DAO, right?
yeah,
The price increases to, let's say, $1,000 per DAO.
right.
Won't you still reach a point where it's like, now that's kind of where it is, and you're now this like community is basically operating, but the price hits a stable price point, and now, as like a business owner, right? Um, where would you be generating revenue if this DAO price hits like a stable price point?
Mm, there would, in order for that, well, it's not so much the stable price point has reached.
Hmm.
Um, you that's cash flow. That's not the how much bacon you hold, right? So initially, you need to have an incentive even if the price is very cheap to generate income, right?
Hmm.
It's not purely just buying the token and you holding the token. I understand what you mean. That's the difficult part, kind of. So for
Right.
us, it's also how do we collect those tokens and um, sell enough so that if there is, the price is so high that
Hmm.
we can sell some of our holdings and price can be cheap again. We can allow more users. That's the kind of thing that people are experimenting with now, so with social tokens.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not as clear, but yeah, I understand your question, but I don't have a clear answer. But I think it's a
Hmm.
good point because um, essentially, say you have a membership based on token holdings, and initially it's at $10, but let's say you don't do any manipulation, but just naturally 1,000 people join, and the price and the membership for price is $1,000 because everybody bought up the Bacon's holding.
Hmm.
Then people see this community as valuable, but they don't want to pay $100,000 anymore for it. Um, that's fine, right? Then within the community, you need to have this cash flow, and that's the part that people haven't figured out as much.
Right.
For us, it's having other services, not just the DAO, but also
Mhm.
we generate revenue from our launchpad where we work with other projects. Um, yeah, I don't have a
Right. So there is,
really any
it's
clear
and
answer
I
for that.
definitely, because this whole idea, this DAO idea, me personally, as I'm trying to grow like this incubator brand where it's all about learning, and it's a different, but it's a similar idea. You're trying to grow a community.
Yeah,
So, what's the solution there? And I've been trying to, figure that out as well. And
sure.
this DAO option.
I think I could be a lot of help in this regard because
Hmm.
I think under 1,000 members in our Discord back in the day, we had a paid model where I didn't use Patreon. I think I used Kajabi, where there's content, but it's also tied into Discord rows. Like I said, you most likely will run into times where you're always just answering questions. That's the first thing you need to consider. And I think the solution for that is to make it less about always on support, more about kind of you have this consistent content that you're putting out. You
Event.
always ask for feedback for what people want to know, but you don't reply to them right away. Instead, you reply on a weekly basis for the most popular common questions. That's the content that is paid access.
Right.
And you can have a live office hour type of thing for 1 hour like every week. That's manageable, right? And in that
Hmm.
period, you collect the questions that are repetitive. And if people see your content, they could not get a clear answer from your written content. They then can plan ahead to what they want to ask you and ask you on that office hour. This way you can manage it and it's a lot more scalable. You don't
Hmm.
want to just pure community and anyone can ask because that once you get to a 3,000 4,000 members, it's very difficult to manage,
Right.
even public members.
Hard to scale. I think the
Yeah,
the idea of like right after this,
yeah,
um, shameless plug for the Incubator Discord, but
yeah.
we're going to be having like a live, just just conversation, and whoever's in the Incubator Discord, link in my bio, uh, can join that. And so I think kind of to your point, we're having these events like where I'm interviewing Virtual Bacon, or yesterday we did an informational session. It makes it a little bit easier to scale. Now, one thing, I don't know if your chat's blowing up with it, but it seems like Elon Musk just tweeted something, and I wanted to read it, and I would love to get your um, real time take. So,
Yeah.
he or Tesla and Bitcoin. So Tesla has, for everyone listening, this is Elon Musk literally just tweeted this. We're doing this live. This is the Incubator Live with Virtual Bacon. You're getting a real time take. So he essentially tweeted Tesla has suspended vehicle purchases using Bitcoin. We are concerned about rapidly increasing use of fossil fuels for Bitcoin mining and transactions. Cryptocurrency is a good idea on many levels, and we believe it has promising future. But this cannot come at great cost to the environment. Tesla will not be selling any Bitcoin, and we intend to use it for transactions as soon as mining transactions to more sustainable energy. So basically, he said they are no longer accepting Bitcoin because of the environmental impact. What are your thoughts on this?
Do you want to hear my thoughts on the environmental impacts of Bitcoin mining or my thoughts on this tweet and its market effects?
Right.
Okay, so market effects, people will speculate that Bitcoin, they're not going to accept Bitcoin payments anymore. He did say, looking at other cryptocurrencies that will use 1% of Bitcoin's energy / transaction, obviously hinting at Doge. But I don't know what people will speculate, but there will be speculation, right? And there will be, it's good to have speculation. Immediately, I don't know what Bitcoin will do.
It's dropped a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I don't know if it's enough to panic, because he's going to be buying Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, me personally, I don't think he said much, or they said much. I'm curious how much they actually were getting Bitcoin payments. I think that, like a lot of companies, I think it's more of an advertisement and kind of a marketing technique. The key point there, though, he mentioned, they're not selling any of their Bitcoin. And I think with Tesla specifically, they do have a narrative of effect or being, pro-environment and all of this sustainability. So in terms of like marketing for Tesla directly, I don't necessarily hate it. Now, what is your take on it actually being bad for the environment?
I have back in summer last year, I think I made like 5 videos going through, just kind of diving down a rabbit hole of this. But from what I can remember doing the research back then is, yes, Bitcoin mining takes up a lot of electricity. At least majority of that is in China, and I think more than 40% of the Bitcoin hashing power is in the province of Sichuan in China. Mostly because there's a lot of hydro energy there that's lost, very concentrated hydro energy. If you look at some other very concentrated Bitcoin mining or kind of hash rate areas are geothermal in Scandinavia and Iceland. Those are the biggest components for hash power. Of course, if there were no Bitcoin mining, there would be less pollution, right? But to say that Bitcoin mining is actually, no, I wouldn't say with less Bitcoin mining there will be overall less energy usage, because people use energy to generate money, right? And in areas like Sichuan, where there's 90% of the hydro sustainable electricity is lost, that electricity cannot be efficiently transferred through wires to other areas. So that is very expensive, and that's why majority of that is lost. But when you use that to mine Bitcoin, then that energy is effectively turned into productive power for the Bitcoin network, where other Bitcoin miners in less sustainable areas can not mine and use that energy for something else. So effectively, it transfers that energy, electricity, to somewhere else, where freeing up electricity from other miners in other parts of the world where they can use the electricity more efficiently for other stuff.
Right.
that's the part that is the biggest argument against this kind of energy waste. Um,
And so
yeah,
I have a couple of things on it. So
yeah,
for one, what Bitcoin's trying to accomplish, right? Take a look at the alternative, right? The alternative is the traditional financial system, which
yeah,
is, consuming more electricity than Bitcoin mining from
yeah,
everything that's involved in it. So for one, you have to think, what is it replacing? So what is the energy consumption of the alternative? And then for two, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but how do these rigs and how do these miners make it a profitable industry or profitable company? They do it by having cheap electricity because that's really one of the major variables. So if when you're in a competitive industry, this need to make a profitable company, now presents a need for innovation. So now they're going to create these more sustainable energy solutions. They're going to have to create more efficient systems. And as a result, you could potentially argue that there may be a net positive from Bitcoin on the environment.
yeah. I think for the actual arguments, we need numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
To compare kind of the alternatives. And there are some articles out there that have done with or without Bitcoin, what those energy in each of the areas of concentrated hash power, like what other industries that would go to
Mm-hmm.
be the alternative of Bitcoin. And it's there are some cases. Obviously the numbers work for the cases for this and against this, right? So it's a difficult topic. um, I obviously think Bitcoin is a good thing, Bitcoin mining included. um, but yeah, I could back to this Tesla point. I could see it's as a point that's better for marketing to say, okay, you know what, it could be it's using a lot of electricity, so it's probably bad, so we're not going to use it, right? But then
Right.
Tesla could say the same as, oh, we're not going to use banks because banks use electricity, right?
Yeah.
But everybody would think that's ridiculous. So there needs to be more research in this area, definitely. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the narrative right now is still it's energy, it's environmentally unfriendly, which I don't think is true. But we need the narrative to turn around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it is. I'm watching, or I'm refreshing the page. For everyone who's just joining, we just discussed Elon Musk tweet that happened in real time as we were on live, which was pretty awesome. Um, Now, so we were talking about DAOs, right, and how to create a community,
yeah.
and how to properly scale it. Now, do you want to give everybody maybe like what can they expect from Bacon DAO? Like when they can expect it to release? Like,
Sure. Yeah, happy to talk about that. So, the current community aspects with all the content that has been functioning for probably half a year now. Yeah, we have tried multiple models, right? It has been before. I just pay everyone to make the content on there, and I try to monetize. However, but we're shifting to this token model, and the token is planned to launch first week of June, tentatively. Now that's going to launch in an IDO platform, which is most people have heard of, but haven't been officially announced yet. As well as our own platform, which I'm in the process of developing right now. So it's going to launch also on the Bacon NFT Launchpad, which is pretty innovative because this use case of NFTs essentially when you have a token sale, right? You have the public portion, and some tokens are locked up as vested tokens for private investors. Typically, how people do it is they collect their Ethereum address, and periodically every month they send the tokens out to them.
mm-hmm,
But this presents a problem where, if you want out of that to- those locked tokens, you have to trade your account, and you can't really do that, right? It's private key, and there's no
mm-hmm,
trustless way to do that. So instead of using addresses, we use NFT tickets where You buy Bacon through the, or any token through the Bacon NFT Launchpad. You get this NFT ticket that says, I have 1,000 Bacon locked for the next year, released monthly. Then
Hmm.
every month you can claim like 90 Bacon from there.
Okay.
And it can only be claimed if you hold this big NFT in your wallet, if you're the owner of it. And at any time you can trade this NFT or send it to someone else, and they can then claim those bacons. You cannot anymore.
Okay.
This way, private sale or seed or whatever locked token investors, they have an early way to get liquidity and get out of their position. And it also drives the price discovery of your token without diluting the supply.
Hmm.
And you can also launch it as an NFT model. So you have like the bonding curve sales, you have the early claim for better prices, kind of innovative ways that NFT has been launching, the NFT drops, which in itself is I think the core utility here is the fact that you can trade these early. That's the most clear utility.
Hmm.
So this is going to launch along with our IDO early June, and yeah, and then after that we can onboard a bunch of other NFT projects that also want to launch tokens. They can launch a collectible with tokens all in one platform on the Bacon DAO Launchpad.
And
Um,
where can people find out more details on
it's
it?
bacondao.com, or you can go on virtualbacon.com, both linked to the same place.
Is
Also
that
link
linked
in
to
my bio.
your
Yeah,
TikTok bio?
yes.
Yeah. So everybody listening, make sure to go check that out. And
Yeah,
now, so
it's a team
the,
effort, but yeah, it's coming.
how many devs do you have working on that, including
Right
you?
now, it's just me.
Really?
The MVP is just me. Yes, but I
You're a
think that's
one
the
man
power of
show.
that's the power of dApps. You know, you don't need super high scalability for your back end. You just your front end needs to be able to handle it. But worst case scenario, it goes down and people interact with it through Etherscan instead. But Etherscan has good scaling. But your
Right.
smart contract will never get like congested. ETH network gets congested. So it's very powerful. There's
That
security
is
risks that
super
you need auditing, but yeah,
from a development perspective because
yeah,
you almost eliminate half the application,
yeah,
or potentially more than half. The hosting, the backend, the database, the storage. You
yeah,
essentially, get rid of it, and then now it's just based on your JavaScript.
yeah,
What you use JavaScript, and then you
yeah.
said your um,
So it's
React Native.
React. Probably not. Well, we could do a mobile end, but React first, and then I'm using Ethers JS instead of Web3. It's kind of the more popular framework right now. Um, Using a SDK called Hardhat, which is equivalent as Truffle, but a lot cleaner and more modular. If you'd probably be interested in that if you
Yeah,
like
this is the
development.
fun stuff.
Yeah,
Talking
this is the
about the
fun stuff.
architecture of the
Yeah,
app.
it's actually very lightweight. If you've ever, I don't know if you've done dApps before, but um, typically people use this thing called Truffle. It's like this. It has like smart contract templates. Handles like the deployment to your. It sets up a local network for you called Ganache. Essentially like an Ethereum, but on your local machine. You test
Okay.
on there, you deploy contracts to it, you write tests, but it's pretty heavy. And the Web3 part, where they use to handle your address, your signing transactions, sending transactions, watching for events. That library, Web3.js, is also kind of heavy. And that's why there's the alternative, which is really picking up right now, called Hardhat and
Hmm.
Ethers. So these are a lot more lightweight, and each of those previous features come as plugins instead. And also the deployment script, it's not like some SDK that you need to use their library in a certain way. Instead, you
Mhm.
just write plain JavaScript. Like I compile this contract through Ethers. I get the ABI. I then write this ABI through like FS, like write sync to my disk, and then you like read it back in. It's very um, native to JavaScript.
Now,
So
have you written at all on like Polkadot or any of these other products to compare?
I haven't written on Polkadot. I have written on EOS before. Um, no, haven't written on Polkadot. I don't know any Rust. I probably should learn, but I don't know any Rust. Um, I have written smart contracts in Java before on Aeon, which is very
That's
weird.
interesting.
It's very weird. Yeah,
How does that work
it's
from a front end perspective?
they have this so the front end doesn't actually matter based on the backend language because once it's deployed, it depends on what your node uses, right? And what the library, it's like what the um, API
Hmm.
communication protocol is for your node that makes your front end language choice important. For example, like on Ethereum, they use this thing called JRPC, which is you probably know RPC, or it's just a protocol for interacting between front end and client and server, or
Hmm.
client and server in a synchronized way, or just yeah. It's also it's basically calling remote methods, right? Um,
This is so technical. I love it.
yeah, but
However,
it's fun to talk about.
if you're getting
It,
lost, then you're not alone.
yeah, it's fun to talk about, but essentially the entire Ethereum structure, the node, the communication layer is JRPC. You type in the method like EVM, send transaction,
Hmm.
EVM, get block, and then you type in your parameters. And then you send it to the node. The node has the and that checks the method, checks the parameters, does something. Um, and this uh, standard needs to be integrated into your front end. So if you have a language like JavaScript that can very easily work with objects, right, to send this like
Hmm.
JSON message, then it's great. Um, Now, your smart contract is written in Solidity or Java or whatever else.
Yeah.
That doesn't really matter because it's the node reads that and it compiles that into what the node does, but the communication doesn't depend on that. So you don't need JavaScript
Right.
front
Okay. So
end at all to,
you deploy this. Yes. You deploy that to Ethereum, and now you have your
yeah,
front end UI, and it's just communicating with this with APIs. So really,
yes,
however that is, you just have an endpoint with like a payload that you hit it with.
yes. So you can make your like if you build a good compiler, you can compile JavaScript contracts into I mean Java contracts into Ethereum bytecode, right? And it should function the same way. Um, I'm I, I'm probably wrong. There's probably some
Hmm.
limitations there, but you can work around it because it is Turing complete, right? So it is Turing complete, and JavaScript is Java is Turing complete. So, um, but yeah, it doesn't really depend on the smart contract language how you interact with it in the front end. More so, like when it's compiled, right? Does it fit into your node? Which I think that's what Aeon does. Is you write smart contracts in Java, but it's compiled into the same um, Ethereum compatible like
Hmm.
bytecode. Yeah.
So, so um, this was. I don't want to take too much of your time here. I know you are building Bacon DAO, and everybody who's
Yeah.
on this live. This was awesome. I do want to ask you though, um, when did you say, "All right, I'm virtual bacon"? Like this is I'm fully. I'm going all in. This is my brand. This is what I'm doing. Like, when did you decide that this was going to be your path as kind of an entrepreneur? And you decided, you're incubating, you're virtual bacon.
Um, so the VirtualBacon name has been around for a pretty long time because I used to be really into virtual reality. So um, I think I started this channel, crypto focused, crypto videos only, in October 2019, I think. Uh, and then, so that's about year and a half. Uh, I say about 2 months in, by like January 2020, I could see the growth there, even though I was getting like under 1,000 views, right? Like on the best videos. But I did see that, okay, I'm getting consistently better. I'm improving every 2 weeks or so. And people that type, the watch rate is there. Even though I talk about very technical stuff, very focused, um, I could see what's interesting, what's technical. There's a combination of that could work. People want to see more in the comments. Um, and uh, there's pretty much no other crypto channel on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when I thought this, at least for followership, for viewership perspective, it can work. For just sustainable income wise, probably May, April or May-ish of 2020 was
Mm-hmm.
when I had this, I think the first kind of Discord paid membership where you buy membership and you have this weekly analysis, and every week I give you like market breakdown and what altcoins I'm buying, and you can
Mm-hmm.
talk to me directly. That was enough to pay rent and to eat. Um, and then by that time, the viewership was still growing, and I knew that that model was not very scalable, but it was still enough to live off of. So then by that time, I knew, okay, I should probably focus on scaling this, and I think around June was when I quit my job as a dev. And at that time, I remember pretty clearly because the CTO at the company I worked for, he's pretty into making videos, and we
Mm-hmm.
collabed on a couple of videos for the company product. But he asked, how many followers did you have? And I think I had around 38K around that time. He said, wow, okay, and you're only doing crypto and on TikTok. Like, what? So, that's,
So then
I
you
think,
just said at that point you went all, because that is, you know, I'm definitely going to pick your brain,
mhm.
after this conversation, because
Yeah.
what you had done is sort of what I'm trying to, learn the ins and outs of. And so it might not be on this live for everyone to hear, but I'm excited to pick your brain because,
Awesome. Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
you're obviously a very smart guy, and this was awesome. Um, is there anything else you want everybody to know? I know
Uh,
Bacon DAO. I think everybody should check it out. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that, where it goes. Anything else?
no, I mean, it was honestly great to be here. Check out bacondao.com, or if you want, like, everything I've talked about, like content analysis, private sales, etc., or just talk to us. Like, you don't have to join the DAO membership, right? You can come in the community, and we have plenty of just public members chatting, and all the content is open right now. So we're almost at 20,000 members on Discord. So like 19,800. Yeah, that's we'll probably
Yeah,
hit 20K before launch, but yeah, it's right now it's free preview, so you can see if you like it, and if it's valuable to you.
awesome.
But it's honestly it's great talking to you as well. It's I think we have a very similar story, and
Hmm.
uh, there could definitely be some. I mean, I could see some steps that I can give you some scaling
Hmm.
specifics that could really help you save like a couple months of work for what
Yeah.
platform and what type of model you go
So
with.
that's I'm gonna do a little shameless plug here, but um, I don't, the incubator doesn't have almost 20K. We're at about 370 members, but for everyone listening to this, if the link in my bio, it's for the incubator Discord. The whole point of it is for collaboration and learning, and that's why I've tried to conduct these interviews. Last week I interviewed the Kush Queen CEO. Today I'm interviewing VirtualBacon, and it's all about learning. And I don't pretend like I know everything. And I'm super excited because in this conversation alone, I show this in all my lives, but like
Okay,
I have some notes here. I have some. You're not
awesome.
going to be able to see it, but I
Yeah,
took notes. I'm learning as much as everyone else is. So I want to thank you for that. This was awesome. And everyone,
no,
if you're not
thank
part of
you
the
too. Yeah.
Incubator Discord, link is in my bio. It's entirely free. Right after this, we're going to do like a recap, just a conversation for everyone who's part of it. Um, and yeah, I'm excited to kind of hear what people think. I'm sure they're going to be like, Austin, which is my real name,
Hmm.
why aren't you as smart as VirtualBacon? And I'm
No,
just like,
definitely not, dude. It's really uh, it's just experience, right? And you just yeah, it's barely any more experience. I think we come from very similar backgrounds, so it's yeah, it's
it's yeah, it's a fun time.